this event. We just started recording. And then there's a link in the chat to the Dropbox folder that has the pieces and photos of the piece. So just step one of our attempt at a digital art opening here. So I'm going to put myself on mute and we'll get going just around 5 or a little bit after.
Oh, okay. Well, it's starting.
Oh, I should just go get on my own computer.
Bringing Sandy's work out of a truck.
The gallery's in Berkeley.
Gina Werfel. The gallery's in Brooklyn. This is in Brooklyn. Thought it was in Berkeley.
It is in Berkeley, and you may not know, but your mic is on, so everyone's hearing your commentary.
Oh
You
my.
might want to mute yourself.
Sure, sorry about that. I was confused. Pardon me. No, they could hear me. No, honey, no.
I'll just say there's no reason everyone needs to be quiet or muted on at this time. Welcome to chat. Welcome everybody. We'll get going in a few minutes here, but mill about as you can here in this opening.
Just be aware that you are being recorded and that everyone's listening to you if your mic is on.
That's true too. Hi, Dorothy. Good to see you.
Hey, hi, Noah.
Hi.
Nice to be here. This looks like it's going to be very exciting.
Definitely.
Looks good. Is there a sound?
Yeah, I'm trying to find. So I can get this on.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. And I'm looking and then it's talking. No.
Wow.
Cool. We're going to be looking at art.
Yeah. And yet,
What?
how come through like 2 people? It's
Yeah,
amazing.
we're going to have a lot more people.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy.
You
Just
see
letting
that?
you know you're unmuted. Hi.
Wow.
Hi, Rosie.
Should I mute?
Yeah, I think, well, unless
Rosie?
you want everybody to hear you. But
Yeah,
hi,
totally up to you. Feel
No,
free
I
to
won't.
chat, mill around. We haven't started yet. Hello, everyone.
I
Wow.
can't see everyone. I just see one person at a time.
Two.
Oh yeah, you might have to change your view.
Oh, right. I must be speaker view or something. Okay.
Go up to the right
Yeah.
hand
I'm
corner. You can
Yeah.
change it a little bit.
Well, so the standard one is, I think, what I have. Oh no, there's more people, but I
Yeah.
don't see the one where you see everybody. But maybe that's because we need to have a lot of room for the paintings.
It's because we're on screen share. When you're on screen share, you won't get the full gallery view of the attendees.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hey, the man of the hour is here, I think.
Oh, we are.
Lloyd.
It's Lloyd.
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi.
Hi, it's Lloyd.
Hi,
and
Lloyd.
Bill. Hi.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Cherry.
Hi. Woo! We can only see you. We can't see ourselves.
Yeah, which is actually an
Dude.
improvement.
I hope we look okay. Fix our hair.
I can't see Sandy. Is Sandy seen by anybody?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. I just don't want to miss him.
Matt, you gotta speak to show up on people's.
Sandy's muted, so I don't think he's.
Oh.
Of his painting.
Yeah.
You'll hear enough from me very shortly.
Hi. There you are.
Sandy.
No, it's just an independent
Hey,
artist.
Lloyd, how are you? Hi, Pam. Hey,
Oh,
Bill, Sherry.
Hey, how you doing, Hunter?
Good, good, good.
Look at that.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
they're
gorgeous.
so beautiful. Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh my God. There's a woman.
Yeah.
Oh.
Julie,
Fast.
hey, Sandy, can you see me? Because I can't tell if I'm showing up.
Oh my.
Oh,
I
look,
see you. I see you all.
the paintings are coming
Sandy.
off the truck.
There's Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
Hello, everybody.
Wow. Look at that.
No, he has a studio.
Wow. Oh.
there he is.
The
That's
dog?
a studio.
My.
Are you muted, Sandy?
I am muted for the moment, but you'll hear from me very shortly.
Okay.
Good.
Noah's taking the lead in. Noah's my son. He's the
Zoom master.
Zoom master.
Oh, look. Oh.
Yeah, we're just giving it one more minute for folks to arrive. But
It's,
we're about to go.
on mute, no? You have some music?
Go ahead and mute it.
That's it, Lord.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Michelle.
That sounds like
The
Ellen.
trees.
No.
Trees.
Hey.
What?
You feel okay?
Did I what?
Do you feel okay?
Yeah, I'll check it for you now.
All right.
Daughter.
There are some with figures. There are some with figures. Oh, I gotta mute myself. Oh, I gotta mute myself.
There.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Okay.
It is hello.
Video.
It is wonderful to have you all here at the
How do
SHOH
I
Gallery
mute
in
my
Berkeley,
audio?
California. So nice of everybody to make it from so far to our virtual art opening here.
Yes.
So I am have the privilege to be Sandy's son, and I'm just really going to orient everyone to the agenda at our Zoom before I pass it to Sandy. But let me be the first to welcome you here to our art opening. I hope everyone has your wine in a plastic cup. They serve really good wine at the SHOH Gallery, so you're missing out. I hope you've kind of gone top shelf for this event this evening. And we are about to get going. I'm just very brief housekeeping. We're going to keep the agenda to about an hour, although, feel free to duck in and out. We are recording, just so you know and are aware. The agenda will be fairly flexible, but we're going to pass the mic to Sandy next for a welcome and a statement and a little bit of a slideshow. And then for artists and colleagues of my dad have generously offered to say some words, and they'll each speak for about 5 minutes, and we'll put their profiles in the chat as well. And then Julie McRae, the curator and SOHO gallerist, will close this out here. And then we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A and discussion that we'll either manage to the chat, or you can just call out when we get to the end. If you look in the chat, you're able to just go down to the bottom and look in the chat. You can also go to a Dropbox link of all of the images of the pieces that are in the gallery if you want to see a more comprehensive view.
I don't see it yet.
And then I will just say that the gallery is open despite COVID. And if you're looking for a COVID activity, it is that there are COVID precautions in place. And of course, we'll do our best, but seeing the show in person and as a collective work, probably the best action. So that's one. I am, just because we're about to go into our speaking, I am going to just make sure everybody's muted. I have that power. So I'm going to mute everybody now. And then, Dad, what that means is you have to make sure you unmute yourself. But let me introduce Sandy Walker, my father, Dad, to you all here to say some words about his art and welcome you here today. Dad, are you able to get off mute?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Noah. That was great. And I really appreciate it, as you know. Actually, Noah said a few of the things I was going to say in the beginning, but I want to welcome everyone and thank all of you for coming to this virtual event, which is, first of all, in place of the exhibit at the SHOH Gallery, but now the SHOH Gallery, as Noah said, is open. And you can physically go in on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 to 5, and and it will be appropriately spaced, not too many people at any one time. But at any rate, I very much appreciate your coming, and I also appreciate the fact that COVID has created this new medium, and I can share my work with many of you that cannot come in person because you're too far away or whatever. So with all that said, thank you and welcome. And most of you, I think, know me already, but I will tell you a little bit about myself, my background, and how and why I do my work. And then I will talk specifically about the work in the show. So, you know, I am Sandy Walker, and I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., a city with great art museums. At an early age, I learned to love art, and specifically painting, at the National Gallery of Art, the Phillips Collection, and the Freer Gallery. Oh, you see that, Noah? Yeah. Any rate, are we okay, Noah?
Yeah, all good.
I'm sorry. Okay. Any rate, as I was saying, I attended elementary and high school in Washington at St. Albans, which had a wonderful art program taught by Dean Stambaugh. I had 4 years of college at Harvard, majoring in art history, and then 4 years of art school, majoring in painting basically, and ending up with a MFA at Columbia University. I actually failed to mention about Washington, D.C., and I want to go back for a second, that it was very important to me that I grew up in a city with great art museums. And that includes the National Gallery, the Phillips Collection, and the Freer Gallery, which I was very fortunate to be exposed to at a very early age, and where I learned to love art, and specifically painting. I am deeply indebted to my teachers. After Dean Stambaugh, there was Morton Sachs, Walter Murch, Nick Caroni, Mercedes Matter, Stephen Green, John Helliker, Seong Moy, and Tony Harrison. They're all teachers that I had at one time or another to whom I am deeply indebted. Since graduating, I've had many one-person shows at both private galleries and museums. Examples of my work are represented in many major museums, public collections, including the Museum of Modern Art, New York, the Smithsonian Museum of American Art, the Whitney Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Achenbach Collection in San Francisco, and locally, the Berkeley Art Museum. When I graduated from Columbia, I was strictly an abstract painter. My earliest mature work was abstract to the extreme. This is an example of the work that I was doing as I emerged from graduate school, which was one-color paintings, large and in various sizes. This was, I have to say, much more unusual in those days than it is now. It's a common genre, but at that time, my teachers weren't totally happy with me taking my work to this extreme. But what I was doing is taking abstraction to an extreme. And that's where I started out doing in my mature work. Then after I graduated, I was living in the Vietnam War era, and I found that my work does not really reveal or reference the things that I was thinking about or feeling or trying to communicate. And as a result, I moved my work into an area that I would describe as on the edge between abstraction and representation. I introduced references to subject or scene reality without being descriptive or narrative, whereas I like to say, competing with photography. So all this leads me to the work of my show today. I use abstraction, and yet there is a reference so that the viewer might know what my paintings are about. My large painting, I Am the Raft of the Medusa, in the show today, is inspired by the great painting by Theodore Géricault, The Raft of the Medusa, that hangs in the Louvre. So why do I not simply represent, copy, or depict the painting? First of all, my means is expressive. I use the materials in an expressive manner. Also, I want to say here what it is about abstraction that continues to fuel my work. Abstraction is also a revelation of the mystery and power of the painting media. I am referring to the power of the picture plane, the colors, the quality of the paint itself. What has held my attraction to pure abstraction is its ability to open us to the inner life, or if I dare say, the ineffable. That is the magic of our craft. I could say that ordinary speech, words, do not serve to convey this kind of experience from one mind to another. I start with an inspiration, an idea, not necessarily a preconceived final image. I do small works and drawings, and then larger drawings leading to the final painting. I have included in the show examples of all these phases of my work, leading to the large final painting of the raft. This process is an example of my working process that I have followed throughout my lifetime of painting. As I follow this creative process, the work evolves in form and content. I greatly admired Jericho's painting in the Louvre while I lived in Paris from 80 to 82. That's me in an earlier body on our visit to Paris. I tried my own earlier version of the painting while I was in Paris in 80 to 82. And over the years since then, it has remained at the top of my list of the very greatest paintings. I cannot take time here to analyze all the reasons, but I can say Jericho's masterpiece has remained with me all these years. When the World Trade Center was attacked, Jericho's painting became for me a symbol of our time. The orange lines on the horizon of my painting represent the World Trade Center. I have posted in the gallery a longer explanation of Jericho's raft and its history, and I will post that on the website of the SHOH Gallery also. My many years of working with the landscape has provided me with the language and ammunition to express my meaning in this painting. In the gallery, you can see one of my earlier paintings from nature. This is entitled Tree Earth. I hope you can see how the power of nature has been incorporated into my language. Other works in the show also deserve my words, but I want to make time for our invited guests to have their say, my invited speakers. So I would simply like to add a few words of explanation about a couple of the paintings. Pina, Tricia Vajovic, was inspired by the film Pina, with choreography by Pina Bausch, as well as by movement by Tricia Brown, interpreted by Vicky Schick, New York dancer and friend. I would simply like to add by way of explanation also that the larger woodblock print entitled Parsifal and Desire grew out of my year-long contemplation of the myth of Parsifal and his search for the Holy Grail. The print Rima is a reference to William Hudson's novel Green Mansions. And Adolescence has its origins and inspiration in Edvard Munch's painting Puberty. So now I want to turn it over to my invited speakers. I asked each one of them to visit the gallery and see the work in person, and then to speak about their response to the work in whatever way they want. All of them are friends of mine and professionals, very well established in their own rights. I won't go into detail about each one of their backgrounds, since we have placed information about each one of them in the chat, but I recommend that you look and you will see their great works and their accomplishments also. And so I'm going to turn this over to Hern Pardee, artist, educator, and art writer who will speak first. So there you go, Hearn, you're next. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Sandy. And hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I'm a little here. Sandy said, well, talk for 5 minutes. So I'll try and see what I can put together coherently. But just watching the slides and thinking about Sandy's experience in Paris, I should say that my own experience as an American painter has always involved trips to Europe. And we spent a lot of time, my wife, Gina Werfel, and I in Paris with students. And I've been deeply involved with Géricault and that particular painting. We've taken our painting students there on summer trips for a number of years and always make them go to that gallery and draw from the raft of the Medusa. But I should also say that my connections with Sandy go back also to my years in New York and early experience I had in working from the landscape up the Hudson River near Bear Mountain, where I was thrust into this experience of the overwhelming natural landscape. And I had been experienced before at painting in the city. And so this was a case of trying to really reorient myself. And at the time I was very preoccupied with the sense that American art was very different from European art. And my own work seemed deficient. I didn't feel like I had the cultural inheritance with me that Matisse and Cézanne had, the artists I admired so much. And so I was constantly kind of going back and forth and looking at the Europeans and then trying to apply that in my work. And since then, I'd say being in America and painting in the American landscape for a long time, I've become more at home with the American landscape and the American tradition, going back to the Hudson River painters and considering not just the pictures of the landscape so much as the tradition, the social and cultural tradition that's involved. And I've been very involved with people like Alfred Stieglitz, who talked about trying to develop American artists who looked at American subjects. And so watching Sandy's work evolve, and now as he's adapted to the West Coast landscape, but thinking about those issues of more than just making landscape paintings, but thinking about the whole historical tradition that's engaged with that was engaged by Americans when they went to the Hudson River, and has been engaged by people like Marsden Hartley and other artists I've always admired, who tried to interpret this idea that Stieglitz had, was that the American landscape was new and we had to find new ways of approaching it. And I think Sandy's work really exemplifies the idea of finding a language, as he calls it, to interpret the experience that he has, and finding in landscape a source for subject matter, but really developing the language. And so much of his language comes through the body. The great European tradition, of course, is all in the history painting, like Géricault's, and in the human figure. And I know from studying at the studio school, where was involved also, how much emphasis was placed on the human figure, the model, but the sense of space, and the way that we were taught to get beyond the subject and enlarge that into a larger way of interpreting the forms in front of us. And so I think Sandy has really exemplified that thing I was talking about with Stieglitz, that you find your own way of responding to a new landscape, to looking at this experience. And I think, Sandy's engagement with environmentalism and causes, I think there's an implicit political thing in working from observation of things, and certainly dealing with the environment these days. We're engaged with, I would say, the raft of the Medusa to be even more than the World Trade Center. It's involved with the climate crisis and the way that we're all on a raft and we don't know how we're going to get off. And so anyway, have I gone on for yet? I'm trying to. Again, very impressed that Sandy, and just looking, I'm sure other people will point out some of these same things, just the way his use of dark and light and, that very simple means. He's taken, with the direct experience of landscape, very simple black and white and figure ground, and found ways to elaborate on his images in that way to generate, I was going to say also about the human figure in that is just the experience of dance, which he mentioned, which comes through certainly in those interlocking tree forms and the way that they morph into interlocking human bodies. So, so I don't know, that's brief summary, I guess, of things I've thought about in relation to your work.
And that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I don't want to stop you because I know you can talk on, but I appreciated that very much.
I'm used to these things, you know, so
I'm not, but so thank you. And our next speaker is Janice Plotkin, film historian and filmmaker. And particularly her recent film was about the artist Jerry Barish. And I'll turn it over to you, Janice.
I made the first faux pas of not unmuting. Thank you so much, Sandy. It's an honor to be included here. And primary work of mine is really looking at visual images, which I've been doing for more than 40 years. So I came for this preparation by going to see the show live in person, which was the first public gathering of myself in a gallery in more than a year, and that in itself was very exciting. And seeing the work hung and how it was placed was, I thought it was a very exciting show. So that was my first reaction. Was I was extremely excited by the energy of the show and the way it was curated and the pieces that were included. And I asked the gallerist who was there at the time, is this specifically from 2021? And I was happy to learn that some of the work dated back to the 80s. So there's very common themes that I see now through the decades. But there was a kind of feverish and ferocious energy in the work that is, to me, it's about nature, but it's also about the body. And the interplay of the body and the trees, to me, was fascinating because, if you are just kind of spacing out and gazing at the forest, which I like to do, sometimes you see the movement of the trees and they feel like they're dancing. And the use of color, and I happened to be just this week on the Central Coast, and I was driving by the oaks and other trees out on the bluffs and seeing that the dark roots of the trunk of the tree easily could look like bodies. So I just love the idea that you can look at both of those and see them. And I know that Sandy and Ellen have spent their summers up in Washington State, so that Sandy's painting in their cabin, and a lot of the forests must serve as inspiration, and going beyond just the trees, not seeing the forest for the trees. So I also see there's a kind of spareness and edginess to the work. And one painting in particular that really moved me was, I think it was an early piece, Tree Earth, that drew me into the bark. I wanted to look at it, but there was great detail in this massive tree. So I was both engaged in the big picture, but also wanting to look deeper. And Sandy, if that was your intention, I got it. If not, I'm projecting my own wanting to look at nature deeper. There was also a boldness of color, because a lot of what I had seen of Sandy's work prior to this as a friend was mostly black or black and white, where I was paying attention to the negative space. And in this case, I was paying attention to the color and the boldness of the color and how they propelled the storytelling. The one that really moved me was, there was actually three, was adolescence, because there was a dark figure, which could have been now that I know you were referencing something else, it's interesting to see. I took it as a parent. Oh, there you go. For me, the black was a parent that was not quite there with the child, and the child was feeling detached from the parent. And or alienated as we often might have been at age 15, as I recall in my own life. So I just saw there was a kind of juxtaposition of need and desire with perhaps an adult figure that wasn't quite available. I also really love looking at the Pina Trisha Von Vick. I'm a fan of the Pina Bausch Dance Company, and I saw both the movement of the dancers, but also these splashes of color that electrified the painting. And it electrified the dance, actually, and really interesting to me. Or maybe I was talking about Forest Dance. Okay, Forest Dance has the electrical, yeah, there's the one, okay. Anyways, so the boldness of color, and there's the sense that I got was from the work, as I'd already mentioned, an invitation to look in deeper, to ponder longer, to try to see what, for me, the messaging is. And I appreciate abstract art, and I'm drawn to it from my own sense of trying to interpret it, and the emotional reaction that I get from it. And I do love the interplay of nature and body. And I see that in so much of what you do. The trees as a moving body, nature's roar in a tree that looked like it was surrounded by coals, old red tree. That, you know, it was both beautiful and fear. I had fear. It created fear because we're living in a fire zone where now part of our year is spent worrying about forest fires and smoke. And then there was the forest dance that I realized you just did in the last year or so. And it was like a conga line. It was like a conga line of dancers, but it was trees. And I just found that as the secret life of trees. When we're not there, this is what they're doing. And I found a lot of pleasure in that. And the last thing that I noticed about the work was a kind of detachment, an outsiderness, not quite approaching, more observational than being in it, I guess. And particularly with the two works, Adolescence and Male Female. So I would say this is the first time I've seen a body of work, and I thank you, Sandy, for letting me riff on it, because I feel like the show works together beautifully in expressing all the things that I just said. And I don't know, I just want to say congratulations and good job. It was beautiful, very beautiful. And to thank the gallerists for curating a really interesting selection of your work. Yeah.
Janice, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I treasure it. And I'm not going to comment on what everybody says as they say, but I just wanted to add that something I left out from my bio was Washington, D.C. was a city of museums, and it's also a city of trees. Very special. But thank you so much. I treasure that. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Fuad Satterfield, a wonderful Bay Area painter and longtime educator. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Fuad.
Thank you very much, Sandy, for your invitation. Can you hear me? Okay, great. First, I just want to say we lost a great colleague this week, Terry St. John, and I just want to mention him and, you know, the effect he had, I think, upon all of us in our group, and we're certainly missing. So I just want to say that. Okay. Considering Sandy's show. Being somewhat familiar with Sandy's work, I knew the themes would be drawn from history and nature. My intention was to treat these remarks as an invitation to a larger conversation. To ask, what are the ambiguities for the viewer to respond and reflect on triumphs and failures of individuals and humanity as a whole? Do the perspectives presented here create opportunities for the viewer? If so, how then does this happen? With an open mind, I decided to visit the show on the first day. And I met Julie and her little dog, and that was very nice. My impressions. The Rafa Medusa, the centerpiece of the exhibition, painted by Jericho and reinterpreted by Sandy as a metaphor, and homage to this great painting thrusted itself upon me as I entered the main room. It seemed to fill the entire space. I had seen it once before in Sandy's studio, but seeing it in a smaller space immediately brought its scale into focus and presented an intimate possibility and proposition to me as I determined my proximity physically to the painting and the distance required to see and feel it maximally. Its compelling energy is palpable and certain as it makes demands on the viewer. Also, there were several small works on paper from Sandy's Nature and Tree series. I felt they were overwhelmed, subordinated by this Rafa Medusa. I thought about this painting, historic's relevance as a work of art and footnote to how we, as history, repeat and demonstrate the inability to restrain hubris as an ingrained destructive compulsion. I can see how this painting would inspire, provoke, and offer a timeless theme for future generations. The painting is powerful, an art object that does to the senses and intellect what great art does. It suspends disbelief and leaves us profoundly moved by an often unexplainable experience. So, as I moved away from the ref, I walked across the room and sat on the couch, and I saw the room from a different perspective, as other works on paper declared themselves, not as subordinates to the grand opus that dominated the room, but these works inspired by nature, sublimely resting in an asymmetrical juxtaposition. The Medusa gave the gallery a sense of balance. So I paused for a moment, and I walked into the second room. I eventually pulled away and walked towards the corner of the second gallery, taking a seat at a small desk that was in the corner of the room. From there, I could see the entire room. There were three large paintings that immediately captured me. The scale and rhythm were a delight as my sight was drawn back and forth as the suggested figuration became pure lines swirling, interlocked, creating a netting set on a pure plane of figure-ground relationships. Wow. There were smaller drawings in the room, works on paper, touches of vibrant hues were sensitively and with great economy employed to emphasize the linear quality, reaffirming the figures as muse and medium. Pina Bausch, the blue painting, a radiant blue and black painting of moving vertical, curvilinear shapes interwoven, tense with vitality and gesture. Parsifal and desire. A horizontal woodblock print was strong with a sense that here Sandy's visual vocabulary was obvious. A direct abstract declaration of a very personal aesthetic. The largest work in the room was another version of the Ralph, a large ink on paper painting. Was particularly striking and a remarkable extension of the artist's fascination with the figure. Sandy's use of line as a means and expression for exploring sensitive relationships between figure and space, flowing in and out, building form and allowing the viewer to interpret, compose, or even reconsider their initial impressions. As I sat, stood, and walked through the gallery, I felt the scale of the work shifting and moving, redefining themselves separately and in continually the rhythm of one into the next. It was unsettling, but exciting to behold. Sandy's work rises up and challenges us to explore and re-examine the subtle sensibilities of objects as paintings offer another view of the dynamic and unpredictable swirl of life unrestrained. I will go back again and see the show and to see if what I experienced the first time will continue to offer a deeper and richer aesthetic experience for this reason alone. In a word, the work succeeds. And these are my impressions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a lot to think about. It's a treasure. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I think we all will. Thank you. So our next speaker is Herlinda. And well, the last of the four that I invited. And Herlinda is a wonderful printmaker and painter. And go ahead, Herlinda, join us.
You might be muted.
Noah, do you see Herlinda?
You know, I'm not seeing her, Dad.
Oh, darn. She had trouble connecting before?
She did, but she, yeah, Paul.
So perhaps Noah, I will, no, let's introduce Julie, and then Ellen and I will try to reach Herlinda to see what's going on. Okay. So Julie McRae, who we are deeply indebted to because it's Julie's gallery. And I thank you so much, Julie. And this was perfect and a very special thanks to you for all of this. And
It was my pleasure. And thank you so much for sharing this beautiful work with us. I mean, it feels like it was almost made for the space. As Fuad was saying, there's a movement that happens with all of this work together that it's like being in currents of a stream. As you walk around the gallery, it kind of keeps pushing you or moving you or swaying you back and forth between pieces. So thank you very much for allowing us to show the beautiful work. And I wanted to thank you, Sandy, and I also wanted to thank our speakers today. Hopefully Herlinda will be able to come back on at some point, but thank you guys for putting in the time and coming through and just sharing with us, because to hear each of you speak about the pieces, to me, that's a real gift.
Okay, now it's unmuted.
Let's
Okay, give us 1 second. Let's try we got you. We let Julie finish it.
Okay.
Go on mute and let her.
Julie, let's come back to you, okay? I think we got Herlinda, I think. Noah, you got it under control?
Herlinda, can you say hello?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. If you, right next to your mute, if you want to click your video, we'll be able to see you. It'll say
let's
start
see.
video.
Okay, video right there.
Perfect. So we're looking at your brooch right now. We're through the camera next to your computer.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, finally. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hello, everybody. What I would like to do is focus just on two works in the exhibition. And the first one has already been introduced by Sandy. It is the tree earth, which I think is magnificent. And when you first see it, you really just see the brush strokes. And it's later on that it seems like the tree grows right out of it. And these two levels of seeing both, you know, the abstract and the medium and the representation always makes me think of these fishes that I once saw at the aquarium in San Francisco. And these fishes had 4 eyes. They had 2 sets of eyes, one to look at everything below the water and the other looking above the water. And I think these two visions are very, very much connected to modernism that always foregrounds the medium. But it also happens in very older work. You know, I remember standing in front of a Grunewald, the big crucifixion in Colmar, which is magnificent. And looking at the hand where, you know, the nail was pounded through the flesh and into the wood with great force. But when you think of the medium, the painter had to use the smallest of brushes and almost tenderly caress the linen in order to create that illusion. And so these two levels are always playing around in art, whether it's modern art or older art. And so what is really beautiful about this particular work, Tree Earth, is that there's such a soft fusion between the brush strokes and the imagery of the tree, so that it's as if the tree grows out of the brush strokes and the forest floor sort of melts into these brush strokes. And I think it is typical for a lot of the work of Sandy. And then the second work that I want to tackle is this raft of Medusa. It is so big it almost doesn't fit into the gallery. And while the raft of Medusa is always seen as the epitome of romanticism because of the extreme emotions on the raft, but it's also a very classical painting. And so the composition of the painting is primarily, you follow all of the hands that point towards the ship that might save them. And on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, you have this big wave that is about to engulf the raft. And you have this figure of the one man who is sitting at the very edge, mourning about his son. And so I think that that same left and right, the right is much brighter in Sandy's work, and there's much more linens showing through, but there is a real darkness that dominates almost the entire canvas to the left. And now what Géricault has done with the characters is he's focused on the 15 that survived. He's actually made 18 out of them. And what Sandy has done, he has really reduced them to what looks like 2 figures, one to the right, to the lighter area, and another one to the left in the darker area. And they really capture, on the one hand, the hope of these characters that are thinking they're going to be rescued. And the other one is like a blue figure, almost at the very edge to the left of the canvas, drowning in the brushstrokes, dark blue and dark black. And so I think what is going on, this is my reading, is that, yes, it is a political painting, but it's also a very personal painting, because these 2 figures, you know, are like an inner landscape. And it's like, we cannot depict what is within us. It's a morass. We always have to go through the outside world through metaphor in order to convey what is within. And so I think these 2 elements, these 2 figures, of hope and despair do that. It's also called I Am the Raft of the Medusa, which doesn't mean like I am the one who's riffing on a big painting, but it's more like that raft with its emotions is also part of me. And so I think that a lot of great works of art have all these layers. It's really like a 7-layer cake with frosting. And so the frosting is what we usually take away. It's what popularizes a painting, but it's all of these different layers of meaning that allow a painting to exist through the centuries and appeal to new sensibilities. And I remember myself seeing a painting by Monet of a weeping willow. And I'd seen it before, it didn't mean much to me. But when I saw it at the Marmothe in Paris, I could see there is this surge of black in the middle of the canvas. And then all of these delicate branches with these twisting leaves. And I suddenly realized that what he's doing is that he's giving you the two extremes of that tree, but they belong together. They are part of the spectrum. And I think for me, that is what I see in Sandy's work, is that these two figures that are suggested are this character of hope and this character of despair. They belong together. They are the spectrum and the part of that every artist actually understands. It's this pendulum between, well, first of all, I don't think that we are worried about our life and dying, but an artist worries about the fate of the work. And so you have in this character of hope that is brightly painted in Sandy's work, you have this sense of moments that we have in the studio where everything is just going supreme, and where that inner well gives rise to work effortlessly, and that we believe that that well will always replenish and that will always be new. Whereas there's also probably more days where we are that little character in Sandy's work that is dark and blue and almost submerged, which is a world of doubt and of questions. And so I think from an artist's perspective, it is a very personal work, and it's almost a confessional. And the upper layers may be more political, but to me, that is how I take the work home. I have known Sandy since the mid-'80s, and I've always liked his work, and I think the work has depth and daring. Thank you.
Linda, wow, thank you so much. And I'm so touched with how you see my work. And thank you for that. And I don't know what to say. I don't want to comment on anybody's. That was great. Thank you. And we're going to have a chance to respond after all four of you have now spoken. And I want to go back to Julie for a minute and let her say more. And then we're going to have some Q&A and some comments. So thank you, Herlinda. And maybe I could say just at this point in regards to all four of you that spoke, that's incredible quality you offered. And I want to say, and you know this too, Julie, that we're recording this, and thank goodness we're recording this, because the things that were said were so substantive and meaningful on many levels. And so I'm really touched by that. And I want to add too, that for all of you that are listening or watching, that this is an expression of the incredible depth and quality of the art community that we live in out here. So Julie, speak.
Hello again. So again, thank you everyone for the wonderful words that you've said and for the different perspectives and insights. To me, that's a huge gift, because, you know, I'm in the gallery, lucky me, I'm in the gallery every day getting to see this. And when I get somebody else's, I think for all of us, when we get someone else's perspective, when we hear somebody else's feelings or thoughts or perceptions on a work, we get to look at the work again with totally new eyes and see something that maybe we didn't catch before, or reevaluate our own thoughts on a work. So I really appreciate it. And I look at it as a gift, the words that you guys have given. And Sandy, again, thank you for having your work here. As he said, this is being recorded. So we're gonna put this up on the gallery YouTube channel. And I don't know if Sandy's also gonna send this out, but you'll have a chance to look it over again if you'd like, or to share it. And the show is going to be up through the 27th. So if you haven't seen it, or if you would like to see it again, please come and enjoy. We are being very good about socially distancing. And I always have my mask on here, except that now nobody else is here. So anyway, thank you guys so much. And now we're going to turn it over to Noah, who is going to be our master of questions and Zoom. And he'll take it from here. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Julie. And yes, thanks to everyone who spoke. I also am totally moved by that, and am just impressed with the depth of commentary and the art community that you all are a part of, and we all are a part of. So thanks to everybody. Yeah, so look, this doesn't need to be formal. 2 ways that you could comment or ask a question of anyone who spoke or anyone who's on the line or Sandy is to just shout it out, although of course that could get a little hectic, or post a question in the chat, and we'll try to facilitate there, and we'll keep this going for a few minutes here before signing off, but we'll just open up the floor right now. Don't be shy. We're all
I
friends.
have a question.
Rosie.
Dad, I'm wondering if there's one thing that you hoped people take away from your show, what this would be from this collection of your work.
Rosie, you asked a tough question. First of all, one thing. The first thing that comes to my mind is depth of insight. Maybe I should stop right there. What do you think?
That's not fair. That's not part of the game.
haven't
But
seen
good
it.
answer. Yeah, I haven't been there in person yet. Depth of insight.
Dad, Jeff and Nina had a question for you, which is where you would rank Jericho in your pantheon of artists.
That's a good question. I don't see Jeff and Nina, are they? But
Right here.
oh, great. There you are. Great to see you guys. All right.
Andy.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I have a list of my greatest works, which I share with people. And actually, there are 3 at the top. The 3 greatest paintings, I think, are Jericho's The Raft,
Yeah.
Monet's Big Water Lilies at the Museum of Modern Art, New York,
Yeah.
and Jackson Pollock's One, which is also his big painting at the Museum of Art in New York. And I love the fact that you asked that, because I'm prepared. I have a list of my favorite artists beyond that. Can I share some of that with you?
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
In
Yeah.
terms of, going down my list of favorite artists, the next ones would be Rodin.
Yeah.
Rodin. Probably Courbet in there, that big hall of paintings at the Louvre. I mean, the huge Courbet.
Yeah.
And now I'm losing it a little bit, because I Gauguin's Who Are We? Where Are We Coming From? Which is in the Boston Museum.
Yeah.
Michelangelo. And then below that, Michelangelo's paintings, and Michelangelo, the Slaves, or whatever. And then at the end I switch over to rock art by people thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So then you can ask me, well, what about
Rembrandt.
What?
Rembrandt.
Or women.
Rembrandt.
Wait a minute. So then you asked me, I didn't actually get that, but Rembrandt. Oh yeah, there's Rembrandt. He's good. No, I love Rembrandt. But I was going to say, then you could ask me, well, those are all historic. So what about artists that are alive and or are recent or are not part of that pantheon? And my list starts with Joan Brown, go, who's not living, but a Bay Area artist who I'm very interested in. Kentridge, the South African artist, I think he's fantastic, and he combines performance also, which I've lived with Ellen in that world and am in awe of some of his work. And then Marlene Dumas, the South African painter who lives in Amsterdam. In New York, Catherine Bradford, like her work a lot. Kiki Smith. And then I want to mention a dear friend who's up there for me, and he's not living, but Tom Green, a Washington, D.C. artist who was a dear friend and whose work is great and not yet fully recognized. So at any rate, that's a list. Jeff and Nina, did I?
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yes, thank you, Sandy.
That was great.
You got it? Great to see you guys. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Noah, are there other questions or are we running out of time?
We're coming to the end of our hour, but I don't think we have to stop right on the hour. Yeah, any other questions or
there's Kate.
Your reactions?
Hi,
Yeah.
Sandy. Hi,
There's Kate.
everyone. Sandy, obviously I haven't seen you and Ellen for a long time because we're all shut in, but so I haven't been to the gallery. Did you create the Medusa painting this past year, or have you been working on it before then?
Well, first thing is, it's hard to say when a work of art for me begins and ends.
Yeah.
You know, from inception many years, but actually the date on the painting is more like I think 2014, 2016, and it was, you know, an expression of just how our time was, you know, all the time since the World Trade Center, and actually until, and perhaps until now, and certainly up until the election in November, it was still just as vital.
Yeah.
That answer.
Andy, I'm also interested, sorry to interrupt.
No.
I've been so curious about how artists have been able to work or not work during this past year. Some people have been just in a flurry of activity, and some people have been treading water and hanging on for dear life, which is my category. And so I'm just curious about how it's been for you, if you want to talk about that.
Well, actually, it's essentially been a good period for me where everything slowed down and I could spend much more time and quiet time in the studio. And I'd actually toss that question out to my guest speakers too, Hearn, Fod, Janice, and Herlinda. Do any of you want to answer that question also? Maybe not.
Well, there are a few more questions here. Ross, I think, has a question.
Yes.
Ross, I hope you won't mind. I'm going to play a few pictures over you or over Sandy's answer in response to Heather's question. Can we see the work slowly on Zoom? I hope you won't mind a little. Well, actually, I'm going to let you answer it. Then I'm going to play it over. Dan.
Sure.
All right, you go first, Ross.
Okay. It's really been great to see all the show, and it inspires me to check in with my friend in Paris who is lamenting not being able to show his art. So I'm going to tell him to get on Zoom and create an art exhibit virtually. Sandy, my question is, you said that in the 60s, you realized that your painting or your art was not addressing what you were thinking, and so you changed your artistic expression. And I'm wondering, how has your art changed or evolved? How has your thinking changed with your artistic expression changing from the 60s onward? Has it facilitated or changed your thinking in some way or another?
Well, I think that I felt, that my expression was inadequate, even though, I was constantly conscious and listening and living, what was then for me kind of a revolutionary time.
Yes.
But somehow I couldn't bring the work in. So into, my painting. So, I mean, that's what I was saying. And since then, of course, I constantly struggle with, what I can do and what I have to say. And my work is not, my work is political and I hope in a deeper sense and not simply, work about a particular moment and then it has no value beyond that. So I like to think that my work is political and I like to think that, but, I am not like a lot of the artists today. For example, painting portraits of people who have been martyred or various war type situations in itself, because I personally am hoping to make a statement that goes beyond the moment and deals with the deep issues that cause these things. I don't know if that helps you, but
that's great. Yeah, beyond the moment for a more universal addressing the perennial issues, not the momentary issues.
That's what I hope for, Ross. It may be pretentious, but I try.
No, I'm with you. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Dad, Julie McRae asks, do you feel your expression changes with your different mediums, paint versus woodblock versus drawings?
A simple answer, Julie, is no. That may not be what you wanted to hear, Julie, and I would say also that my work in performance, which I have a history of working with Ellen, is continuous with that also. And so it's another medium, but other than that, it's just another medium. And sometimes one medium suits better an expression than another. Sometimes, also scale and so forth. For me, that's where it comes from. Frankly, I don't paint work that I think is going to go somewhere. I paint work and hope it's going to go somewhere. Anyway.
Dad, we're gonna do, I think, 3 more questions here. So Steve asks, how did Dorland Mountain Arts Center influence work?
Thank you, Steve. Ooh, I know who you are, but I haven't met you. We've had some exchanges because Dorland, there's a artwork that we haven't been mentioning in the show, which is a folio, what I call a folio, based on the prose poem by Tamiki Hara. And I don't know if we have any representation of that, but and that's a work that I started 25 years ago, in the sense that it was conceived of during the 50th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima. And Ellen and I were working together on performance around that. And I was reading, and I read this very, very, for me, very moving, what I would call a prose poem by a Japanese poet who had survived the bombing of Hiroshima. And he wrote this 5 years after it. And to me, it was a very moving and deep poem. And I wanted to do something with it, image and text. And I didn't know how to do that. And somewhere along the line, one dark night, I was able to create the images, but I still didn't know how to put it together with the text. And I was fortunate enough to get to go to Dorland, the mountain artist residency in year ago, January. And I had just a very few days there, and I took the project with me, and I was able to realize and finalize it, with the exception of then it needed to be reproduced in order to be a multiple. So I made the original with what was an incredible retreat at Dorland, which is a fabulous artist colony outside of Temecula, which is perhaps between, say, San Diego and Riverside. At any rate, I hope that answers the question. It was a great gift to me, and I was able to complete it, and I'm very happy, and I hope that you all can see that work too, take some time and read and go through it at the gallery.
Perfect. Thank you, Dad.
No, I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Robert.
How do you send a chat?
I'm sorry, I wasn't there.
How do you send it?
Just say everything's okay, but come upstairs. I didn't, I was on live.
Noah, you're on mute.
Oh my goodness. It's in the lower right-hand corner in the more buttons. You'll see the chat there.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I meant to call you to see this whole thing, but it started at 5, not 6. And I just,
Dad.
How do you send the chat?
Well, you've already been successful, Heather. Sending the chat.
Sandy's doing a big show and they were talking.
No, the man was asking. Robert.
Oh yeah, just go to the chat. It's click in the chat, and it should come up for you, and then there'll be a place to write to everyone in the chat.
And you push enter.
And you press enter.
I don't know if that was the question, really.
That's Bruce, and I don't know if he's asking you a question.
On your keyboard.
Yeah.
Return on your keyboard. But we could also just let him say his question and would avoid that whole problem.
I was gonna say. While we're working on that, we're getting. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Robert Bruce.
Yeah.
I was thinking for a future event, I would suggest we stroll through some of the other pictures and be allowed to ask questions or make comments. I found the 4 responders that Sandy invited to be very powerful speakers and really opened this body of work for me in a way that it would not have happened without them. So I thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. I thank them too.
That is such a wonderful comment. If you're interested, we have a link and we've put it in the chat, but we can send it out to access the images through Dropbox for anybody who's able to do that. Not the same as being in the gallery, but that is a great point, a great suggestion, and also a great comment. Dan, I'm gonna ask so we still have 2 more here. One from Eli, who asks, what might be some of the modern approaches or styles to abstract art by other artists that have caught your eye and influenced some of your more recent work? Dad, sorry, you're on mute. You just got muted. Apologies.
Oh, I thought I was on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So the only thing I can say is what I'm looking at right now, which is the work of Clifford Still. And I could maybe leave it at that, the answer to that question. Clifford Still is not living, but I think it, is in the range of what he's talking about.
Okay. Well, listen, no one has to go home.
Noah, can I interrupt you? Janice has her hand up.
Oh, go Janice.
We can't hear you, Janice.
Well, here, I was just responding to your question that Kate asked, which is, thank you for asking, and maybe other people have comments too on how you did in the last year. Was the year of solitude to your advantage, or did it make you crazy? And I feel like everybody has an opportunity to really think about that right now, a year in. So I would say to Sandy, you know, how long has this show been gestating, and what impact did our year of isolation have on the work or on the current work that you're working on? And was it in the way, or did it free you?
Should I answer that, Janice? Or I wouldn't mind the others that spoke, but I'll just say this show was primarily complete, before COVID hit, and I'm on to a new body of work.
So could we ask the other speakers to respond, and I'll give you my response first, because I went from for the first time in February of last year, I resigned from being an employee in a nonprofit organization and kind of just put myself out to pasture. And it was very scary not having a structure. And I think I went into a deep tunnel first. But I came out of it when a colleague said to me, "This is your sabbatical. This is your time to do your creative work." And I just turned my head around and said, okay, I'm at an artist retreat. It's called My House. And I have a backyard where I can ponder and think. It was beautiful. And out of that came projects that I'm working on now a year later, that I would have probably needed the time to really think about where I want to put my energies. So it's really had its own blessing. So there's 2 film projects I'm working on and 1 essay. So it's been good in its bad way. Yeah. I'm curious to know about other people.
Well, I could jump in, I guess, if nobody else is ready to say anything. I think it's been a very special time in my work to have the isolation and the concentration. But as things have happened, you know, the time just seems to merge together. I look back and think, how long has this been? And I really can't pin down any landmarks of events or tell if I've made progress. Sometimes we know in a journey, you know, you've seen something and now I see something else and I feel like I don't know. I may have been going in circles for this past year and just enjoyed being in the studio and working. So I don't really have I don't know yet. I think we'll need a little more time to go out, but certainly I'm a person who enjoys being by myself in the studio. So it's been ideal in that point of view.
How about you, Fudd and Herlinda? Would you like to say?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. For me, it's been magnificent. That year somehow sharpened my focus in the studio tremendously, primarily because you suddenly had this blank calendar that didn't fritter away your time. And the way I work in the studio, I often need blocks of 3 to 4 days to finish a piece. And the second thing that happened was that I was ready for this period. It was like the vocabulary in my own work was just ripe for being extended to a larger issue. And so it came together with an invitation to show at the Monterey Art Museum. And so for me, that 1 year just brought everything together. And I have promised myself not to fritter away my time anymore, to put everything together like on a Monday and keep the rest of the week open if I can. So, I mean, not to diminish the pain that this caused for a lot, but for me, it was very beneficial.
Thank you, Erlinda and Fudd. Can you tell us, Fudd, are you there? Maybe we lost Fudd. He doesn't want to answer that question. But Noah, I know we've run over, and you know, I don't want to keep people, and this has been just great. And I have to thank you, Noah, You did a great job. Thank you so much.
I totally agree. It's been wonderful. And as I was starting to say a minute ago, the conversation can continue. No reason that it has to end, but we will close the formal Q&A part of this. But Dad, there is a question that I think is appropriate. You can take however you want in the context of this year to close this out, in the context of all of us being on a raft, as it may be. Ella asks, in what is a terrific final question, Sandy, what keeps you going?
Thank you for asking that, but I can't help myself. Frankly, art early on saved my life, and it keeps feeding me. I love art, and it's like a flow that comes out of me, and I trust it will continue. So I hope that answers Ella.
Bravo. Bravo.
Agreed. Well, thank you to everybody. Thank you to you, Dad. Congratulations. And thank you to Julie for a wonderful show. We can't wait to visit in person for those of us who are not immediately in the Bay Area, or at least get visit the gallery. I'll keep this running, but thanks to everyone who attended and spent some time with all of us this evening. And we'll look forward to seeing you all again soon, I hope.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo. Bravo.
Oh, congratulations, Sandy.
Thank
That
you.
was really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. Nancy.
You're all welcome.
Oh, wonderful.
Is that
Robert Charles.
Pleasure.
Thank you. This has been just a joy to be with you all and hear all your comments.
Hi.
So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Good job, Noah.
Steve Rickard here, and thanks for all the St. Albans graduates who signed in. We're lucky to have, he's a star of our class.
Don't say that. You're all stars, and thank you, Steve. And we're all beneficiaries of Dean Stamball too.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, I've been trying to figure out if I can take a plane to Berkeley
Yeah, come visit.
for the weekend.
Oh, wonderful. Share the screen. Oh, yes. Marvelous.
Beautiful
Nice painting, Nancy, in the back.
Oh,
Allison.
marvelous.
Nice
Allison.
to see everybody.
Wow. Hey.
Hi, Ellen.
Allison.
And Sandy. Beautiful painting. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah.
Did you see Noah's baby?
Yes.
Beautiful. He looks like this.
Anytime, everybody.
Yeah, no.
All right, I'm going to end the Zoom. Thanks to everyone. Have a great rest.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Noah. Bye.
Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.
Julie.